Here's a chart of my scores for the 1980s Nancy Drew Files series. As you can see, it took a turn for the better at the end of its first year. Today's book is not an improvement. Unlucky number 13 begins with Nancy getting a desperate phone call from her friend, Jennifer. Jennifer works at Victory Airlines, and one of the baggage handlers was killed by smugglers. Oh no! Also, we need an excuse for Bess to be in this book, so she becomes a flight attendant. The idea is that Bess will help the investigation by being nowhere near the crime scene. Yeah, I get the sense Nancy doesn't trust Bess anymore. Nancy begins her investigation by talking to the president of the airline and Sean, Jennifer's hot boyfriend. Sean is not part of the mystery, but he's hot. So Nancy feels justified in talking to him. She also meets Paul, the flirty guy, and his boss, obvious culprit. After Nancy meets everybody, Jennifer comes in with a big clue. She saw some passengers with a boatload of diamonds hidden in their luggage. Good job, Jennifer! You deserve an award. Nancy is a little snotty at this point, and she roughly brushes Jennifer aside because she doesn't want amateurs messing up her case. I don't know what Nancy's being rude for. It's not like she found any clues. In fact, Jennifer is the one who breaks the case open, because Jennifer reveals the victim always used the secret code number 747. Yeah, the victim said he was a smuggler, and he gave away the smuggling ring's code word. He wasn't very good at keeping secrets. Anyway, it doesn't really matter because Nancy completely messes up the 747 clue by breaking into the nearest 747 airplane. She is locked inside the luggage area, and she barely avoids getting killed. Sean politely suggests that Nancy should stop doing dangerous things. She yells at Sean and adds him to the suspect list. No one is allowed to question Nancy Drew's actions, ever! After Sean and Nancy's big fight, there is a misguided subplot where Jennifer thinks the two of them are having an affair. I don't know, maybe Jennifer is confusing Sean with flirty Paul. Don't worry about the invisible romance, though, because Sean and Jennifer work out their problems off-screen, making the entire sequence pointless. In the meantime, Nancy vaguely focuses her attention on obvious culprit, who almost hits her with a wrench and a train. Still, Nancy remains unconvinced that he's guilty. Eventually, Nancy overhears a secret conversation between obvious culprit and his partner, Linda. They both admit that they are smugglers. So, the book is over now, right? Nancy calls the police? Wrong. Instead, Nancy hides herself from the criminals by making out with flirty Paul. Yeah, she makes out with a guy that she's only talked to once or twice. That's 1980s Nancy Drew for you. Nancy goes back to the 747 clue and books a seat on flight 747. This is a dead end that goes nowhere, but the pilot mentions emergency crash landings. Subtle foreshadowing. Later on, Nancy breaks into the baggage area and she discovers container 747. The smuggled goods are inside, and since airport security doesn't exist in Nancy Drew's world, she's able to pick up the container and take it out of the airport. Once again, the book should end here because Nancy has solved the mystery. But she decides not to call the police in favor of going on a flight with Bess, Jennifer, and Linda. Nancy doesn't have a ticket, but she bullies her way onto the flight by threatening the person at the gate. Oh, Nancy, our hero. Too late, Nancy realizes that the random plane trip is a trap. It was designed by the smugglers to kill all of the main characters in the book. Then, a bomb goes off in the back of the plane, and we have a dramatic crash landing. But really, it's very uneventful, no one gets hurt at all, kinda pointless. But on the positive note, everybody leaves the plane through an inflatable slide. Ooh, fun! The smugglers are arrested off-screen, and Nancy invites Flirty Paul to a party. Like most of the men Nancy makes out with, we'll never see him again. The end. Post-book follow-up. This book has 7 blank pages in between the various chapters. No other book in the series does this, so it's not a stylistic thing. It's just a cheap way to bump the book's length up to 150 pages. Maybe that's the book's problem. It was too short, so they added a bunch of fluff and nonsense to lengthen it. The first time I read this book, I got halfway through before I completely lost track of the story and who all of the characters were. I had to go back and reread the book from the beginning again. It's not entirely my fault because the book is a mess. Most of the subplots go nowhere, like Bess being a flight attendant, Jennifer finding a cache of jewels, and Nancy riding on Flight 747. The romance between Nancy and Sean could have been good if it didn't take place during the 3 chapters where Sean and Nancy don't talk to each other. In other words, the book promises romance, but we are never given any. Thumbs down. In an earlier review, I said these books are the literary equivalent of popcorn. Well, this book is more like stale popcorn. It doesn't fill you up, and it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. There's only 1, maybe 2 scenes in this book that are interesting. The train scene and the stuff with Flirty Paul. I give Nancy Drew Files number 13, Wings of Fear, a 1 out of 10.